Welcome to the NBAV podcast.
Welcome back to NBAV and the NBA Avenue podcast. I should be coming to you today talking about how the Mavericks are on fire since the trade deadline and before. They won 7 in a row. That win streak finally got snapped, and now it's back. They are moving in the right direction. I should be talking with you about PJ Washington having the game-winning bucket. As a new player coming from the struggling Charlotte Hornets, moving to a much better franchise, the Dallas Mavericks. In their loss to Indiana in the previous game, he struggled. He struggled shooting the ball. And now the new guy coming in gets to have that moment where he scores the game-winning bucket with about 2 seconds to go in the game. Instead, what we are talking about is not a Cleveland Cavaliers team that was playing so well for so long, propelled themselves to the 2 seed behind Donovan Mitchell, and now seemed to be going in the wrong direction. And no, that's not the case. That's what we should have been talking about. We should have been talking about how, as the stretch winds down, the Clippers seem to be not in the best place. The Cavaliers seem to be not in the best place. But Max Strus changed all of that. He took the Cleveland Cavaliers out from one discussion and moved them firmly into a different discussion. Max Strus went God mode. He went absolutely nuclear for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a game they should not have won, and Max Strus seriously snatched that victory up in many ways by himself. What a performance. That is a performance that goes down in history. With all the threes that Max Strus hit in the fourth quarter. Of course, capped off by the incredible buzzer beater with the shot of the year. Strus delivered a moment that he will never forget. A player who played for the Miami Heat team that made it to the championship last season. He goes elsewhere. He signs a contract that put some money into his pockets. He has a bit of a resume, and he comes out in this game for the Cleveland Cavaliers and just takes a ball game that they had probably no business really actually winning, and he caps it off with a shot from beyond half court at the buzzer, and he swished it. He swished everything. He was absolutely on fire. He had one of those on-fire moments, one of those on-fire quarters that you see every once in a blue moon from a player. We've seen guys like Kyle Korver. We've seen there are a few other examples where players hit a hot streak like that, and this was one for Strus. He makes about $15 million a season. He'll be on the Cleveland Cavaliers for this year and the next 3. And you just have to think. The Los Angeles Lakers signed Gabe Vincent, and he hasn't played the entire season. Gabe Vincent is a little bit cheaper. He's about in the $10 million range. Strus is about the $15 million range. But just imagine, had the Lakers brought in Max Strus instead of Gabe Vincent, not only would they have a player who would have been on the court the entire season, but perhaps a more impactful one who is capable of something like this. And that's not to say that every single night with Max Strus is going to be a great night. Max Strus is a hot and cold guy. He's a guy who can have games like this, and he's a guy who can have games where he goes, 1 of 9 from three-point range, and he doesn't really help your team out too much. But what helps with a guy like Max Strus is the volatility. And when you're struggling in a game, and when there's a game that you probably don't deserve to win, when you have the right night, players like him can elevate you and take those losses and turn them into victories. So the Cleveland Cavaliers, I thought we were going to have a very different discussion about them with about 2 seconds left in the ball game. And then when the clock struck 0, we now have a completely different discussion. The Cavaliers can now go win their next ball game as well, and it won't even matter. They've now won 2 in a row. They win 1 more, and it'll be 3 in a row. Nobody will think in the realm of, we should have lost that game to Dallas. It'll be history. It'll be history for Max Strus and the Cleveland Cavaliers as they sit firmly in the 2 seed. They're 1 game up on the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, they're 7.5 games back of the Boston Celtics. They're not going to catch Boston, but this goes from the Cleveland Cavaliers are trending downward, not playing their best basketball of the season, heading into the playoffs, and now they have an opportunity to keep their spirits high and move into the playoffs as the same team as they were during that long run of 2 massive win streaks, which vaulted them to the 2 seed. In other news, suddenly things are looking bad for Dallas. In the standings, in the Western Conference standings specifically, you have a very tight race where Dallas was in 5th, Dallas is back to 8th. Dallas is a half a game back of the Kings, a full game back of the Suns, and a game and a half back of the New Orleans Pelicans. And the Pelicans got to beat the New York Knicks last night, and the Knicks didn't have Jalen Brunson. So the Knicks, already missing OG, already missing Julius Randle, then you add Brunson to that. And what you essentially had, well, also they were missing Isaiah Hartenstein as well. So what you had is a full starting 5 unavailable for the New York Knicks. You essentially had the Knicks' second unit going out there and trying to win a game against the Pelicans' first unit. And what I'll say for the Knicks is they do bring it every single night. So the Knicks' second unit is honestly good to probably win a bunch of ball games themselves if they were the first unit. But the Knicks didn't have their first unit at all. They didn't have Brunson, they didn't have Randle, they didn't have OG, they didn't have Hartenstein. That's nearly a full starting lineup right there. There's other players they also didn't have. So it's not surprising that the Knicks couldn't win that ball game. But the superpower for the Pelicans right now is their ability to beat bad teams and to beat teams that are missing their players. And fortune has been on their side because they've played a lot of those teams. The Pelicans have spent the past couple of weeks beating up on a lot of the lower competition in the league and a lot of the competition missing players. And they did that again last night. And that's what's been keeping the Pelicans in the 5th seed. So the Pelicans now in the 5 seed, they're 2.5 games back from the Los Angeles Clippers, who are at 4, and they're a half a game up on the Suns, a full game up on the Kings, a game and a half up on the Mavericks. So the Pelicans right now sitting tight in the 5 seed. If they stay at the 5 seed, they're going to have to play the Clippers. If they drop, maybe they could play the Nuggets. If they drop further, maybe they'll play the Thunder or the Timberwolves. So very interesting to see as we come down the stretch, will there be any movement based on playoff matchups for the seeding? Will teams say, hey, I don't really want to play the Clippers, or maybe they do want to play the Clippers. Maybe they'll say, I don't want to play the Nuggets. I would rather play the Timberwolves. Let me try to move down in the standings. It'll be interesting to see if anyone is willing to take that sort of risk. What we also saw in one of the other NBA games is that the Hornets have firmly come down to earth. They got absolutely trounced by the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is what we spoke about with the Hornets, where in the Hornets' previous 2 games, they were only scoring in the 80s to 90s. And now they've averaged less than 90 points over the last 3 games. And there just aren't many games in the NBA that you're going to win if you're scoring under 90 points per game. So the Hornets coming back down to earth, the injection that they received for getting all of those new players at the trade deadline is on the verge of wearing off completely. And they can go back to typical Charlotte Hornets basketball, which is very forgettable basketball. Going through the rest of the league, we had a night in many ways of teams handling their business. Teams playing opposition who aren't going anywhere and winning those games, taking advantage of it. You had the Magic easily beating the Brooklyn Nets. So the Magic getting the job done. And in the Eastern Conference, the Magic remain in 7. They're half a game back of the 5 and 6 seeds, the Heat and the 76ers, who are tied, just a half a game ahead of them. So the Magic doing what they do, taking advantage of business. There was the Cleveland Cavaliers winning on the buzzer beater against Dallas Mavericks, like we already discussed. You had the Warriors trouncing the Washington Wizards. So the Warriors, again, also, just like the Magic, the Warriors handling their business. The Warriors staying in the 9 seed, tied with the Lakers for the 9 and 10. And a game and a half back of Dallas in 8. So the Warriors did what they had to do against Washington. The Hawks beat the Jazz in a game that doesn't really matter for either team because the Hawks are firmly in the 10 seed. They're not going to drop to 11. They're not going to move up to 9. So the Hawks didn't really matter. For the Jazz, the game certainly didn't matter, but the Hawks get the victory. The Pelicans, like we already discussed, beat the Knicks without Jalen Brunson. So Pelicans did what they had to do. You have the Celtics going out and doing what they do on their home court, winning. Celtics beat the 76ers, again playing without Joel Embiid, so the Celtics did what they needed to do. The Timberwolves did what they needed to do against the San Antonio Spurs. The Bucks did what they needed to do against the Charlotte Hornets. So that's the theme of the night, where the night was obviously capped by the climax of the night was Max Strus and his epic shot of the year. But around the rest of the league, it was really better team with playoff aspirations beating team that doesn't have a spot in the playoffs, handling their business. The Pistons actually got a victory against the Chicago Bulls. Neither of those teams really have any aspirations this season. The Bulls are, you can just nickname them the play-in Bulls at this point. So nothing of consequence for either team there. The Thunder handled business at home against the Houston Rockets. And the Miami Heat went to Portland into the dumpster fire, which is the Portland Trailblazers. And the Heat got, what is that, their 5th consecutive victory? The 5th consecutive victory for the Heat. And where the Western Conference really seemed to be the one where the playoff seeding was in the biggest heat of battle, where you have the Pelicans, Suns, Kings, Mavericks, and then the Warriors and Lakers a bit further down, but you have that whole cluster of teams all within a game and a half, 2 games, all fighting it out to try and get a higher seed and to try not to be in playoff contention, and to try to be removed from play-in and just firmly in playoff contention. The Eastern Conference is actually heated up in a surprising way, because with the Pacers having an opportunity to beat Toronto the other night and losing after the Pacers had beat the Dallas Mavericks the night before, suddenly the Pacers have sunk down to an 8 seed. The Pacers were previously in a 5 seed, where they were in a 6 seed and they were just behind the Sixers for a 5 seed. So we were thinking, hey, you might get a Knicks versus Pacers first round matchup. Well, right now you're going to have to put that on hold, because winning 5 games in a row, the Heat are now in the 5th seed, tied with the 76ers, but the 76ers lost their last 2 and they're playing without Embiid, so you would imagine the Sixers are going to continue to fall down. So the Heat, after a lackluster first half of the season, they're picking it up here at the end, 5 straight victories. And now you may be looking at a very, very dangerous Heat-Knicks round 1 matchup, where the Heat last season beat the Knicks. So that would be a really rugged, wild series between 2 teams who play basketball the right way. What a first round matchup that would be. The Knicks against the Heat, with the Knicks having home court advantage at MSG. Wow, that would be something. Then you have the 76ers in free fall dropping down. They're in 6, and the Magic are only a half a game back in 7, tied with the Pacers in 8. So the Magic and the Pacers very likely can move up ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Sixers will have to play a play-in game in order to even earn their spot in a playoff series. And we hope by then Joel Embiid is back, because if he's not, the Sixers are in real danger of getting bounced and not even having a playoff series. And you have to think, if you want to go a little bit conspiracy for a minute, that maybe with Joel Embiid's injury, that might be what they're hoping for. To say, if we make the playoffs, if we are actually in a playoff series, Joel Embiid will return. But in actuality, the 76ers may not get to that point, because if they have to play play-in games and they lose 1 or 2 play-in games, they'll probably have to lose both play-in games, because they'll probably be in a 7 or an 8 seed. They'll have to play 1 play-in game first, and then if they lose that, they'll have to play a second one. But if they lose both of those, that might be what the Sixers want, because if you're playing conspiracy, they may just want Joel Embiid to get the medical care he needs, and they probably don't feel that they can actually win a title this year. So maybe it would be better to just bow out, make the play-in, lose the play-in games, get eliminated, and now Joel Embiid doesn't have the pressure of trying to push his body to come back this season for the playoffs. So that's just a little conspiracy basketball right there, where Philadelphia is probably waking up and realizing that they are not going to win the title this season. And then you have Tyrese Maxey, who's going to be a free agent this year, and I'm sure that the Sixers are going to throw the max contract at him. But if I was Tyrese Maxey, it's really time to think. As you come down the stretch and you see that Joel Embiid is not with you because he's hurt, you have to think about your future and think, how many more games and seasons are there going to be like this, where I'm going to be expected to drag this team to victories without the main star of the team, Joel Embiid? Whereas there are probably other teams in the league, like a San Antonio Spurs, where Tyrese Maxey can go with a younger guy who's less injury prone in Wembanyama and build the next great NBA franchise. That would be a very enticing offer if I was Tyrese Maxey. Now, maybe the Sixers can offer a little bit more money based on the rights and what teams he's played for in the past. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't delved into that too deeply. But you would have to think the opportunity to play in Texas, a great state in terms of taxes, and the chance to play alongside Victor Wembanyama, and the Spurs are also going to have a great draft pick in this year's draft, and they have other young talent. Suddenly, you add in a point guard like Maxey, which is really what the Spurs are missing. That would be their main flaw, would be that they don't have a point guard. You add Maxey into that on a max contract. You have Wembanyama down low. And then you just have to fill out the roster with a couple of role players, and you will suddenly really be on the verge of something exciting there. So that would be just a thought that I have for Tyrese Maxey, is maybe think about your future and how many of these games you're going to be expected to win without Embiid if you continue to play there in the seasons to come. But I'm sure the Sixers will do what they have to do to lock him up. It would just be exciting to see him go elsewhere, especially if that would be to the San Antonio Spurs. Although there will be other teams offering him the full max deal as well, I am sure. As we continue to go through the rest of the games that we had last night, we actually finished all of them because we had the Heat beating the Blazers, and the Heat with the 5 in a row, which we explained the 5 in a row, vaults them to the 5 seed. So you have the Pacers trying to scramble and move back up to get out of the play-in territory, and the Magic are trying to do the same thing. The Sixers are likely falling into the play-in. What we have coming up tonight are the Dallas Mavericks, who are going to have a little bit of amnesia. They're going to have to go out there tonight, continue this road trip, going from Cleveland out to Toronto, and they're going to have to really forget about the events of last night. They're going to have to continue to try and play good basketball and play against a Raptors team who are hot and cold. On the right night, the Raptors can really bring great defensive intensity and shut a team's offense down, but the Mavericks, frankly, are too talented and too deep for that. So I would look for Dallas to rebound, get back in the win column by beating the Raptors tonight, and then you can kind of get the bad taste out of your mouth from the Max Strus buzzer beater. Then we have the Pelicans going against the Pacers. Both of these teams really need victories. The Pelicans are sitting in 5. The Pacers didn't perform well in their last one, which I believe was against Toronto. So the Pacers are looking to rebound as well, and I think the Pacers will get this victory on their home court against New Orleans. And if the Pacers win and New Orleans loses, that will greatly impact both the Eastern Conference standings, as the Pacers will move up, and the Western Conference standings, as the Pelicans will move down. Then the Cavaliers are going to take this 2-game win streak. They're going to try to turn it into 3 against the Chicago Bulls, who just lost to the Pistons last night. So the Cavaliers definitely poised to walk into Chicago and get another victory, as they're riding high off the Strus buzzer beater. So look for the Cavaliers to continue that and get 3 in a row as they try to build out their 3rd long winning streak of the season. The Grizzlies are going to face off against the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves just beat the Grizzlies in the last few games, and they should do it again. The Timberwolves have been very, very good against bad opposition in recent weeks, and look for that to continue against the Grizzlies, who have nothing to play for. The Kings are going to go face off against the Nuggets in Denver. The Nuggets are playing very well right now. They beat Golden State in a game which sort of woke everyone up. The Nuggets have won 3 in a row. So it'll be tough for the Kings to win, but the Kings are sort of that hot and cold team the entire season, where they win games that you don't expect them to and they lose games that you don't expect them to lose. So it should be a good one. The Kings are definitely a live dog. But if the Nuggets play the way the Nuggets should play, the Nuggets will get the victory, but we'll see. The Nuggets are really not in a position where they're desperate for the victory, whereas the Sacramento Kings really are desperate because they're sitting in 7. They don't want to have to play a play-in game, and if they win this game, they can move up to where the Phoenix Suns are, tied for a 6 seed with the Suns, so they would really like to do that. Let's see if Sacramento can finally start playing better basketball. You have the Lakers and the Clippers in a showdown in LA where, yeah, the Clippers are the better team. They've been playing like the better team for most of the year, but the Lakers need this game, and the Clippers, frankly, don't. I think if the Lakers lose this one, they'll be firmly behind the Warriors. But with over 20 games to go, that battle can go back and forth. We'll see. The Warriors are still playing very, very good basketball. They're 8-2 in their last 10. So the Warriors things are looking up. The Lakers still 7-3 in their last 10. It's a little surprising. They did lose their last one. It doesn't feel like things have been going that well for the Lakers, but the Lakers have been doing pretty well themselves if you just look at the sample size of the last 10. The Lakers are specifically very, very good at home. The Lakers are 20-9 at home, whereas you have to flip that around for the road. They're 11-19 on the road, so much, much better at home. So using that, you would have to look and say that the Lakers are playing the Clippers. So it's like, who's really the home team there? I guess technically the Clippers. So is it a home game? Is it an away game? Let's see what happens in that one. The Lakers definitely need the victory more, but the Clippers have largely played like the better team, although the Clippers are starting to struggle a bit now. So the Lakers have a good opportunity here because they're catching the Clippers at the right time. The Clippers are only 6-4 in their last 10 ball games. So if you're a Lakers fan, do you want to play the Clippers? Probably not. But are you catching them at the right time, all things considered? Yes, you are. So that's what we have coming up on the docket tonight. The key games are the Pelicans against the Pacers because of that, how that impacts the seeding. And the Kings against the Nuggets is another good matchup, and the Lakers against the Clippers is the third good matchup of the night. You can follow us, like always, on social at NBAV and NBA Avenue, and you can reach out to the show at NBA Venue at yahoo.com. We are also now available on YouTube, so in addition to the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, Amazon, iHeartRadio, we're now also on YouTube, so you go subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the YouTube page. We'll get the numbers up over there as well. For all of you who don't like using the podcasting apps and you prefer the YouTube, we're there. We are everywhere. NBAV. We have the merch store. You can go find it. I'll have to post a link to the Twitter, so we have NBAV merch as well. And we're your source for a great time every time. And until next time, we are out.